I have been disassembling and reassembling multi-tools on a weekly basis for over a year now. And this is a selection of the tools that I use to do that. I thought it'd be cool to walk through each of them. So let me slide these out of the way and we can kind of go in bit by bit. If you've watched the live streams or Mod Monday videos, you might have an idea of some of these, but let's go through them in a bit of detail. So the first thing you need when you're disassembling multi-tools is going to be a pair of screwdrivers. I found this Snap-on racing screwdriver used at a local tool store and got a really nice ratcheting feature, which I appreciate. Magnetic retention for 1/4-inch bits, and pretty much stays in the loosening configuration unless we're doing a mod, but you'll see this a lot come in just for quick disassembly work. Do everything manually still. On the other side of any given screw, I tend to use my little custom multi-tool here. I think I have a video on this. I'll try and link that up here if I can find it, and if not, let me know in the comments below and I will maybe do a video on this. But this is just a multi-tool modification tool that I built out of an old Leatherman rebar. You can see it's got the Leatherman bit extender here. It holds that in a sort of a pistol grip configuration. It's got a magnetic bit retention on this one that I've added in. And then in addition to that, everything holds out at the, well, this bit driver holds at the roughly 90 degree position and then locks in at 100 degrees. And then we've also got a small flat screwdriver and file, which is handy for taking off burrs as well as just prying, general prying uses, and then a large flat screwdriver in here also. And that is useful for all sorts of things. Again, poking and prying, as well as those large kind of coin-driven screw slots that come on certain tools and accessories and whatnot. Inside, I have got some Vera Torx bits. Right now I have the TX10, which are the security Torx. You can see they have that small hole in the tip. These are the bits, the only bits that I buy for the bench. Obviously, I'm taking apart a lot of multi-tools here. We need to make sure that nothing gets stripped. And so I do pay for the high-quality Vera bits, but they're not that much more expensive. And they are so utterly reliable that I just don't question it. I got the TX10 bits. Speaking of driver bits, this is a 3D printed bit holder that I got on Etsy. You can see, oh, this doesn't hold. So this is made for the Linus Tech Tip screwdriver. So it's made for the shorter bits that come with that. But just really nice 3D printing quality, and every single bit position in here has its own magnet. So it's really nice retention, easy to get out, but everything drops in perfectly. And so I keep this on the bench. On the left here, I've got T6 bits, little gap, then T8, 9, and TX10, those TX bits being, again, those security bits. That takes care of just about everything I've come across. Occasionally there'll be an oddball, but that will handle all of the tools that we deal with on a regular basis. Really nice quality on that. I'll try and find the link for that to that Etsy seller because they were super helpful. And then yeah, just keep this on the bench to hold as many bits as possible so that when they wear out, I can cycle through them. Speaking of bits, I do keep this little Victorinox ratchet driver. I thought this would be more useful for disassembling tools. I wasn't a big fan of some of the features on it, but it does have a magnetic. Does it? Oh no, I'm sorry. That is a split ring that holds a bit in the end. So I just keep a T6 bit in there for doing the pocket clips on the Free Series tools. My kind of complaint here is that the ratcheting head, if I can get this bit in, holds the bit fine, but when you start applying pressure, as I would want to do if this was my second-hand tool, that bit will pop right through. And then in order to reverse directions, since it is one directional, you have to flip the bit over to the other side in order to get that going. But this just stays on the bench as a little quick driver. always have some of our disassembly wrenches. I don't even know if I have any small extra large ones on hand, but keep the medium large on hand for the rebar and all of those tools. And then I've got the Gerber version of this, and yeah, getting worn, but holding in there. I don't know if I've changed these in the last 6 months, so they do last quite a long time. If you watch the streams again, you know how many of those tools we go through on a weekly basis. Last piece for getting out screws, and this is when stuff has really hit the fan. I've got not one but two Knipex twin grips. This is the original size, so it is a little bit big for my application, but these have screw driving or screw turning capabilities, bolt grabbing heads, I think they'd call them. So you can see that there is, it's set up to grab onto something in the tip. That's a bad example, that's too small, but you can grip that in the front, and there are, let's see if we can show these, there are grooves running in this direction, so it bites and does not allow that to twist. These will come out when we've got screws that are stripped or just poorly machined and we can't get them out. These will come in, they bite in great, and it's never fun to have to pull these out, but they do usually get the job done eventually with enough patience and force. So it's just an external way to turn those screws versus the internal way that we would much prefer. What else? We've got a pair of punches here. Let me check the sizes on these, and that'll segue into our next bit. So this is about a 3mm punch, and this is 3.87, which I think is a 0.154 inches. That's probably a standard size. I don't recall offhand, unfortunately. But these are the two sizes that I use the most. This one will work in the P4 pivot, and then this one, the larger one, works on most of the larger tools, rebar, wave, etc. Just use those brass punches so to not damage anything. That's super important, and at least for us. And yeah, just when things get stuck, you can give it a little thwack. Speaking of thwacks, let's pull out my little thwacker. I use this occasionally. Not a ton, but it's a little brass-faced hammer with a, I think that's a nylon side on the side. So you can always give that punch a nice hit to dislodge some stuck pieces. You can also use the nylon face. Occasionally, like a washer will get stuck on from some Loctite, and I can just use that nylon face to just give it a couple of hits till it drops off. All right, as my voice continues to go, let's go into some more. This is kind of an odd one. If you've seen me take apart Swiss Army knives, I like to use these flush cutters. These are Icon brand from Harbor Freight, and just use these to pop the rivets and grip onto the brass pins and kind of yank them out. So those always stay on the bench. They're decent for the price. They're pretty good. Might not be as useful for most, because if you're going to take apart one or two Swiss Army knives, I recommend drilling out the pivots so that you get some extra rivet caps in the process. A couple of Spudgers. These come from iFixit. They are sort of a nylon-y, soft-ish material, but still pretty strong. Use this to poke and prod again, help line things up with that pointed end. That flat end's good for getting in and prying off, excuse me, Swiss Army knife scales and stuff like that. And one more kind of blunt instrument here is our automatic center punch. This is a Nico brand. Works really well for me. Just have it dialed up to 11 at all times. Again, if you need to really get a pivot out, you can use this to amplify your force. I use it a lot to drive out the pins on Swiss Army knives, though. And super handy around the shop. If you're going to be drilling into any multi-tools, you're going to need a nice hard center punch to start that drill off without it slipping constantly. The biggest upgrade for reassembly of multi-tools is these small, very, very sharp little tweezers. I've stabbed myself with these things. These have been, get out of here, Siri. These have been dulled just a little bit, shortened just a little bit because they bent, but something super, super fine like this has been invaluable in reassembling these multi-tools. So I do recommend a pair of nice tweezers like that. Is this not saying non-magnetic? I think it is non-magnetic. Yeah, these are stainless and non-magnetic, so that's super handy for stuff like this. And then the last thing that I use all the time, you may not see it quite as often in the videos, is my calipers. These are cheapos from Harbor Freight, I believe. Yeah, Pittsburgh brand. Totally fine for what we're doing. I do have nicer calipers for design work, but usually what I'm doing in this case is measuring, just measuring like a component so that I can fill in the space with extra washers as needed. So I like to know, check that out before I get too deep in. You can at least get a rough approximation of how many washers you're gonna need. So that is, let's pull some of this back in. That is everything I use. You don't need all of this to get started. You can get a lot of this done with patience and just kind of standard shop tools, but I do have most of these things set aside for this purpose specifically. Couple of good screwdrivers with good screwdriver bits will get you most of the way there. Obviously, our wrenches are helpful for certain screw types, but you can also grab on a lot of those with some vice grips if you just want to get the job done for a single project and you don't mind marring up those pieces. I do love the punches, I do love the tweezers, and I do love a set of spudgers just for general poking and prodding and getting things into alignment can be super, super helpful. That is all I have this week. If you guys want to see some of these tools in action, we do have our Wednesday live streams where we disassemble multi-tools. Check those out. We also have a Mod Monday series on Mondays where we do live modifications. We're about to shoot one of those in just a few minutes. So we will catch you in the next one of those. Thank you guys for watching.